What is good, Fundamism Podcast fam? It's your host, Paul J. Long, coming to you all the way from the Fundamism newsroom. And if you're watching on YouTube, you already know that. But most likely you're downloading from or streaming from iTunes, maybe Spotify, whatever you dabble in. And to that, we greatly appreciate your support. You know the deal. We like to feature guests who are having fun in life and creating fun in the lives of others, individuals that gravitate towards things that lift them up. And before we introduce today's Fundamism Podcast guests, I would like to shout out to an organization that's been doing that for many years here in the Kansas City area. Charlie Hustle is creating not only amazing threads, but memories for all. So if you don't know anything about Charlie Hustle, please go to charliehustle.com to learn more. So I had the opportunity to meet our next guest on a podcast called Fired Up KC with my boy Zeke, former UMKC alum. I'd never heard of this gentleman, never met this gentleman, and it was like we were brothers from another mother. The moment that I felt his energy, I knew that he would be a guest. I said to myself, he will be mine. Oh yes, he will be mine. Ladies and gentlemen, former Kansas City councilman, former mayoral candidate, current consultant in all things fun, my boy, Jermaine Reed. What is good, Jermaine? How are you, sir?
What's good, Paul?
We're all the way up, sir. We're all the way up.
How are you doing today?
I'm on cloud nine. We finally hammered out a time where you and I could share in some energy together. I've been waiting on this moment because I needed to pick me up, and I knew that you were just the guy to do it. So in order to establish a baseline of what we're getting into, same question I ask every single guest. What do you do for fun, Jermaine?
Well, I like to travel, and I like to have fun with family and friends, and a good bar drink here and there. That's about it.
That's about it. Well, yeah. You certainly have your hands full. I know that you are you got your hands on a lot of pots. You're consistently doing the dang thing. And as you know, and obviously as you prioritized in your life based on the way that you carry yourself, it's important to set aside time for your own mental health. And so absolutely. Taking the time to go out and having a drink with friends or cutting up with family, super important. Now, I know just in the short hour that we spent together that you're kind of hip in the old pop culture. We were kind of rapping back and forth with some movie lines. There were some Coming to America references. So as we progress, before we get too far down the path, what's your favorite like sitcom back in the day, or maybe even movie? Like first one that jumps out at you.
There's a couple of them actually, and interestingly enough, just last night I was watching television after the Democratic convention, and so I was pretty much done with the convention, and I didn't want to hear any of the commentary. And so I went looking for Martin reruns.
Yes.
So that definitely is one. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yes.
Is another one. And although we can't really watch these anymore, and this may be a tad bit controversial, but The Cosby Show was also a really good one for me growing up. So, and then for movies, I would give some other good classics, which would be Lean on Me is my favorite of all time, and Coming to America.
Yes. Oh man, there's so much here to unpack. So first of all, first question, Martin, has Bawaka Batisha ever dropped that baby? Because like, I feel like that's been a long going thing. Like I just waiting for the day where Bawaka Batisha actually drops it.
Well, I don't know if it has the capability. The answer is probably no.
All right. Did you hear that they are in? There is a remake of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I did that and actually the movie Coming to America. There's going to be a remake for both. Actually,
That's right. And we
I read the one for Fresh Prince literally like last week or something.
Yes, and it's a drama. And what's interesting is it was just a gentleman that was like a huge fan of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and he wrote a whole script and got Will Smith's ear, and here we go. It's gonna be great. As a drama, I wonder if every single episode is gonna feature like, you remember how Phil and Fresh and Will always got into the really significant talks, and it got emotional. And the one episode that jumps out at me, of course, is when Will was struggling with his relationship with his dad, and he was mad and he was crying, and of course Phil, right? It's Phil. Yeah. Yep.
Uncle Phil.
You remember the episode that I'm talking about? And he held him real tight, and Will was like air punching everything. And
yeah. Well, it was always good too, because when Ashley or Carlton or the butler, and then the other cousin, what is her name? It escapes me right now. Hillary is her name.
Yes.
They always had. One of my favorite episodes though is when Will Smith was trying to play Ashley's father, and he went into the school, and then he had this fake mustache on, and the teacher ripped it off, and the teacher was so fine that he was trying to hit on her, and then that's one of my favorites. And then Jazz, all those.
Jazz.
I figured you were too young to remember all of these.
Heck no. This I grew up on this stuff. Do you remember? So for those of you guys tuning in right now, you might be wondering, what in the hell are they doing? But listen, what you can't see, but you could certainly hear if you're not on YouTube, is as we're talking about these things, two gentlemen, or at least one gentleman and myself, are smiling from ear to ear, laughing, thinking about memories in our life and things that give us strength. And that is Fundamism. So, if it's Will and Carlton going to a pool club and sharking folks, or Carlton shooting his shot, then ultimately, man, I'm about that life. I do want to circle back on a couple of things.
He would do that, whatever that Carlton is.
That's a staple. Like that is, I feel like that's bad. You mentioned Martin. You mentioned the Cosby Show. You didn't mention the Wayans brothers. Did you ever get into the Wayans?
Yeah, of course. The Wayans brothers, Jamie Foxx. We had Eddie Griffin, who had a show that he's from here, and it was actually based off of Westport. The list could go on, but yeah, definitely the Wayans brothers was good, and funny enough as well, was it's not what was their spinoff of Saturday Night Live?
Not Mad TV, but come on now.
Right.
In Living Color.
In Living Color. I wanted to call it something else, but In Living Color, yes.
Yes.
What it did is it showed you how talented they were. Jim Carrey, who was a token white guy, but it was so funny. Homie Don't Play That, those different characters. You remember that one?
Oh, yeah. And then the film critics, I give that 3 snaps and a Z. But so my favorite, just circling back real quick to the Wayans brothers, that's my favorite theme song of all time. And I'm not even sure if I could sing it anymore. Do you remember? Like, I don't know if it's PC for me to sing, but it went like this. Jermaine, hold me accountable. You know that, man, I just love this song. It was, we're brothers, we're happy, and we're singing, and we're colored. Dun, dun, dun. Good. Give me a high five. That's right. Last thing before we switch gears. Do you remember the episode of In Living Color where Jim Carrey was the karate instructor teaching self-defense, and he had a knife, and he was teaching the lady, he's like, come at me, and I'll show you the correct way to, And so she would immediately work him over. And he was like, no, you're coming at me all wrong. You have to come at me like this. Did you ever see that one?
I'm not sure.
I'm going to send you a link as we finalize our time together. Last question. Is Lean On Me related to the pop culture? Is Lean On Me the one with Morgan Freeman?
Absolutely.
My goodness, that movie was amazing. And my best friend in high school, C.C. Brown, Charlie Calvin Brown, him and I, we graduated together from Osawatomie, Kansas. And we used to reenact that scene where, of course, everybody's trying to get into the school. And Mr. Clark is trying to get the chains off the doors. Chains off the doors.
Get the chains off the door. And he had some code or whatever it was. And then he's running because he just finished talking to the young lady in the auditorium. And
Yes.
Misha, I believe, or something was her name. And
Yeah.
He was, get the chains off. Get the chains. and then the fire chief says, because of your big mouth. And then that old angry wench is what they called her on the steps of City Hall. There in Patterson, New Jersey, with the mayor and everybody.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we're kindred spirits, my friend. This is a perfect jumping off point for a lot of the experiences that you've kind of had in life. So I went to your website, JermaineReed.com, and it looks like you came up in a rather large family, single mother, lots of siblings. So talk to us a little bit about that experience and where you grew your love for helping others.
Yeah, so my mom raised my brothers and I, 4 brothers. I make 5. I'm the second oldest of the 5, and so 3 younger ones under me and an older brother. And the younger ones didn't come around until probably 7, 8 years after I was born. So I'm a little older than them, and my experiences at home once they were getting, in the elementary school or what have you, I was getting ready to go off to college. And so, but life was interesting growing up, and in no way would I have ever characterized my upbringing as poor or disadvantaged or struggling or anything. It was just life as we knew it. Because what happened for me, and I think a lot of people's families, is that there was a lot of love, compassion, support, and encouragement to do whatever you want to do and that you can accomplish things. Sometimes, our electricity might have been off at home. The gas might have been off. The water might have been off at times. My mom would probably she's working a blue collar job, trying to make sure that she can make ends meet to keep the bills on, keep food on the table so that we could eat. Sometime I remember growing up seeing her not necessarily even eating food, just so that we could have food to eat. But none of that, was anything that stopped us from realizing that anything in life was possible. And I remember I was getting interviewed by the Kansas City Star my senior year of high school. I was featured as I think the article said something along the lines of teen make most of life with contributions to the community. And one of the questions that the reporter at that time had asked me was, did you ever think that anything in life wasn't possible? You're graduating from high school. You're going off to college to MU, and you're the first in your family to do so. Did you ever think that this would be possible? And for me, I'll never forget that moment, because my immediate answer was no. And because of what I mentioned at the top of my earlier comments, were we've always felt like everything was possible, and with love, encouragement, support. Of course, my mom couldn't do it alone. There were so many others in our village that helped really form my opinions, really helped form who I am as a man, and who really molded me into, I believe, the person I've become today. Those have been my grandparents. One, my late grandfather, who passed away some 7 years ago, Kenneth Reed is his name. And he, while a blue-collar worker himself and didn't graduate from high school, he was the average guy, and he taught me so much love and compassion. And actually, when I think about what we were just talking about from those TV shows, for me, like watching the Cosbys or watching the Wayne brothers, these were African-American families that we were able to look up to. And so while my family didn't have a big mansion like they did in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, it was something that I aspired to be like or to do, or having a judge or an attorney or a doctor in the home, at least for me. I realized that I had friends that I've met along the way from high school whose parents were doctors and lawyers and judges and individuals. But I can go on and on and on just about that. But I would end by saying that those early life experiences, and even at one time been homeless, where we were evicted from our home and had to couch search from relative to relative's home. But realizing that even during that difficult time for us, my mom encouraged us, my late grandfather encouraged me, my grandmother encouraged us, my uncles, my aunts, all, banded together and were pushing to say, look, anything in life is possible, because if you just put your mind to it, you can do it. And the only thing that isn't possible in life is death, because when you're dead, you have no more opportunities to give it a try. And I try every day to get up and give life my best shot that I possibly can.
Well, it's evidenced by the two interactions that we've had thus far, and obviously some fun text exchanges, that you are a gentleman that makes the most out of your experience here on this earth. Before we kind of transition into your education, we have some parallels, some mutual love in our alma maters. Not MU, no offense. But I know that you took some classes up at UMKC as well, and education is very important to you. Before we go down that path, I'd like to really talk through this mindset in you that anything in life is possible. And you mentioned that growing up, obviously it was a challenge, but you didn't know it at the time. Like, you didn't have anything to compare it to you. It was just life experience. So whether you're homeless and couch surfing or looking for a couch, or the electricity is off, or, mama's not eating, whatever it may be, you still had this mindset back then. And even today, you mentioned even, the featured article by the Kansas City Star when you were a high schooler, that anything is possible. So my question to you is, there's so many folks in this earth or on this earth that have these moments in life, whether we start out in poverty, or everything's going our way and we file bankruptcy, or we're hit with something significant. Maybe it's a, health problem or whatever it may be. And all of a sudden it's a defining moment in our life where we don't have a shot anymore. Before you answer the question, I just want to say that I can really relate to a lot of what you're talking about. So growing up in a small town, first of all, I went to like 6, 7, 8 different schools by the time I was in 5th grade. And I remember living in my grandma's basement. I remember renting a lot. We were always in a new apartment. And it wasn't because I was an Army brat. It was because we were poor. And I recall walking up to the store, IGA in Osawatomie, and getting my gallon of milk on WIC, baby. Represent WIC. Thank you. And I told you this before, and you guys probably have heard it on another podcast, but I remember getting gas with change in the Ziploc bag, $5 on pump 4. So there's so many things that I could relate to in your story, but most importantly, the thing that I could relate to is it appears that you and I didn't allow these struggles to define what we thought life could be. What is different in you that allows you to see things that way as opportunity versus somebody that maybe sees it as a challenge or a rut that they can't dig themselves out of?
It's pretty simple. In life, we're told too many times what not to do, but we're not often told what to do. And for me, I think that was the major difference, is that I listened more to the what to do versus what not to do. Yeah. For example, don't do drugs. Don't do drugs. Don't have sex before marriage. Don't go out and get bad grades. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't do this. But in most time, people spend more time talking at you than with you about what. Is that you got the feeling?
I got the feeling. I'm preach on it. Preach on it. That boy good.
I'm just getting started. but seriously, I mean, we talk more at our, if you have kids, which I don't. But I see so many people and so many times, and sometimes even growing up for me, I remember as an adult, I have had these conversations with my mom. Is that sometimes, there was always this what you shouldn't do and how you shouldn't do it, and go sit down and don't do that. But you don't spend time talking them through and coaching them through and letting them understand why you should make those decisions. You're often coming to them, or they may be coming to you with their problems, but not coming to you with solutions. And I think that for me, for sure, it was some real defining moments that, since I had so many individuals, from mentors to older family members to just even successful friends and their families, who spent more time talking with me about how to be successful, how to accomplish things, that those things stuck out to me versus the what not to do. And I think a lot of times that we get into those what not to do's, and then they become a source of rebellion and the sorts of, well, shoot, they keep telling me not to do it. Let me just keep trying it. Now, don't get me wrong. I've done some bad things just as much as the next person. For sure. But I haven't gone so far as that I let those bad things outweigh the good things, because I've definitely done way more good things than I've done bad. If I told you my worst story of this year, you'll probably say, wow, if that's your worst story, which I'm comfortable with sharing if you like. But if you say if that's your worst story of the year, then that something's wrong with you, sure. Because they're way worse stories.
For sure.
But so I think that those are some key points that help me really navigate life's situation. I mean, and I know we'll get into this and I'll probably say it again, but just even running for public office at 25 years old, and being the first person in city history to even win a public office and serve on the city council at 25 years old. One of the things that I continuously thought about when giving it a shot was, I'll never know if I can do this unless I try. I had so many people tell me, no, you can never do that. You will never win. What are you trying to run for? Are you trying to run for Congress? Are you trying to run for the next big thing? No, I don't know if I can do this unless I give it a try. And I only got one shot to try it and get it right, and that's the first time. And thankfully, that time I won with 68% of the vote.
Wow. Well, for those of you tuning in, again, we thank you. But just a little nugget that I heard Jermaine say that I hope you take away. So running for public office at 25, a lot of folks saying, what are you doing? You shouldn't do that. You won't win, whatever it may be. It goes back to the point that you said. So many people, especially now in today's society, are willing to tell you that you're doing it wrong. Or tell you what to do or what not to do versus what to do. And one thing I admire about you is it seems like, based on your childhood and growing up and the distance between you and some of your other brothers, and forgive me, I'm probably I'm drawing a dotted line here, but you were almost forced to play more of not a fatherly role, but like you were forced to grow up in a hurry. Like you were a man of the house. Is that an accurate statement?
No, very, very accurate. I tell people all the time, as I just referenced, haven't been elected, and I'll get back to that point too. But having been elected at 25 years old, I had to grow up very quickly, right? There's so many people at 25 who are still trying to figure out what the hell they want to do in life, right?
Dude, I'm 39. I don't know.
Right. And so to be thrust into a public spotlight in the court of public opinion every day, and having to make real life decisions on behalf of a city with a $1.7 billion budget, with over 500,000 people in our city, over 80,000 constituents in which I'm responsible, roads, streets, sides, airports, bridges, just the quality of life for every single person at 25. I'll often say that I had to grow up very, very quickly. But I also think, to your earlier point, is that just like my childhood experiences, there were times that I had to grow up very quickly as well and take on different roles that I think, as I know you hear this often, is that if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
For sure.
And so at a lot of points, I have always been ready and not having to get ready.
Yes. So the reason why I asked that question is, first of all, I've noticed a phenomenon lately when I talk through individuals that appear to be seeing some level of success, however success is defined to you.
Sure.
But they are experiencing some level of joy, fun, fulfillment. Maybe they're, entrepreneurs. Maybe they've found the job that gives them passion, whether it's corporate America or whatnot. Maybe they got the perfect family, whatever it may be. A phenomenon that I'm noticing when I start to talk through the journey of these individuals is those that are the happiest have had very significant times in their life where they weren't. Yep. And the reason why I bring that up, of course, is because our life is a series of events that offers us perspective and opportunities for growth. And so I look at your childhood, and I know there's so much more to the story, but I look at your childhood as really one of the things that is establishing you and how you carry yourself and your intellect and your ability to communicate and your ability to deal with challenge and all that stuff to get you ready to, at age 25, take on this public office that potentially you know nothing about. And now you're in control of all this stuff. So that is absolutely phenomenal. The thing that I want to ask you is, reaching public office at 25, being a significant fatherly figure, I don't know how to say it, patriarch of your family experience at a younger age. I know that you're a mentor of our mutual friend Zeke and several others. Do you find yourself consistently in a position where people are coming to you for advice or seeking you out for information on how to push through their journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember once I was talking with my grandmother, and I was telling her it's becoming a little bit weird that people refer to me as Mr. Reed. And this was several years ago, and I remember her response was, "Well, son, that's just because people respect you, and you've earned that respect, rightfully so." But in my mind, it was Mr. Reed was my grandfather, or uncle, or someone along those lines. And it was, I'm looking at myself as just Jermaine. And so when you're characterized in this sort of box of respect, and people refer to you as that, my grandmother's words really stick out. as she said even recently as the other day to me, is that it's just it's a term of endowment and that people respect you. And so I get the fact, and I enjoy having an opportunity to talk to folks about my journey. I enjoy the opportunity to coach people through those sort of challenges that they feel like they are facing. I enjoy talking to that individual who says to me, well, I want to run for office. And my first response to everyone who says that to me, well, start running. And so because it's like, these are things that I had people who helped me along the way that exposed me to so many opportunities that I think it's important to do with others.
Well, Mr. Reed, I do respect you.
All right, Mr.
And I got the hint. All right. Jermaine, one of the things that has been a challenge for me as of late, I, like you, I take great pride in putting out good energy and potentially offering an opportunity to help where help is needed, right? And so as such, there are folks that gravitate towards you and they ask questions and they talk about relationships and they talk about all the challenge that you referenced, right? And I had this dark moment late last week. And the moment was like, I had all these amazing things that have been happening over the course of the last 2 weeks, but I just felt this sense of emptiness, right? Like something was missing. I felt like this darkness, and the darkness was attributed to like all of these interactions that I was having with people that were really taking, or I was allowing them to take my light, if that makes sense. Like I was throwing so much energy at other people's problems that I wasn't giving myself enough energy to push through my own. And so the reason why I'm prefacing all this and I'm talking about you, I'm hoping for a little self-discovery moment or self-reflecting moment in myself to where Mr. Reed could walk me through something. I saw this amazing tweet yesterday that really encapsulated how I felt last week. And the tweet read, "Stop letting people battle themselves vicariously through you." Stop letting people battle themselves vicariously through you. Yeah. The reason why that resonated with me, of course, is being an individual like yourself, Jermaine, or an individual like myself that is willing to engage and have conversation and help potentially work through challenge of other people. The truth of the matter is a lot of people aren't willing to put in the work necessary to create true impactful change or improvements in quality of life. And so that's a very long setup to say, what experiences have you had and what advice would you give when individuals are reaching out, asking for advice or wanting to get a piece of you, a piece of your mind, or a piece of me? Let's get specific. How do you protect your energy? How do you protect yourself while still helping others?
Yeah, you said a lot to unpack.
Hey, wouldn't be the first time in my life somebody said that.
So let's start with the first sort of thing that you mentioned, which was not allowing others in your energy and to take up your space and the energy that you give off or that they're giving. And for me, I would answer that by, I think that too often times we try to take on others and their problems, and people come to you and they want to start sharing all of the things that they're dealing with, and then it becomes your problem. And for me, I've often tried to have at least that real firewall that I have to say, look, at this point, I'm willing to help as far as we can go. but you have to answer and make this decision for yourself. I can give you scenario after scenario, option A, option B, option C, and you have to choose which one you're going to deal with and deal with it. But I will also tell you that after you've dealt with it, that it isn't the end of the world if it doesn't go the right way or the way that you wanted it to go, because you can always come back and do it a different way so that you can get a different result. And so I think when you get that firewall and you're up against it and dealing with others, you have to make that, you have to do that, and you have to let it go, and don't let it become your problem along with their problem. Because you individually, which gets to the second piece of what I think I'm hearing you asked about or discuss here, is that protecting yourself, I think, also deals with that sort of something. Here's a very simple thing. I professionally have a cell phone that is only for business purposes, and I have a separate cell phone that is a personal cell phone, right? People say, well, why do you have two cell phones? Well, because I want to protect my energy. I know if my professional cell phone rings and I am on vacation, if I pick it up, I choose to answer that call and to go into work mode. If my personal phone rings and I'm on vacation, I choose to pick it up and be in my personal space. And so I've had the same cell for 10 years, at least for my professional cell phone, and my personal number for at least 20 years at this point. And so I like to have that separation personally, because I know I want to be able to protect, turn on, and turn off. And so if I keep it, if I have my professional phone on me, I say, well, hey, I'm able to take all the calls I can 24 hours a day. Well, I won't be taking calls 24 hours. You get my point.
I do. And the most important question I would ask is, what number do I have?
I'm not going to tell you that on this recording, but you best believe it is professional.
Oh my goodness!
So I think those are some of the common factors, and I could probably give the other examples, but I think that's the crust of it. Yes. Obviously, everyone doesn't want to pay for two cell phones. I actually pay for more than that. But I think it's important that you protect your energy from that angle. And I'll never forget. I mean, people, even from just the cell phone scenario, people would often call my personal phone, and I'll never forget someone calling when I first was elected to office, and it was a Friday night. And this gentleman says to me, "Oh, they're shooting over here in the neighborhood. What you gonna do?" I said, "I'm sitting my ass here on this sofa and chill out. And I think you should call the police." Okay. Now they called. What'd you say?
I said, "What am I supposed to do?"
My point exactly. Now let's be clear. As a policymaker, yes, if the police department hasn't responded, if no one answered the phones, I have a larger problem that I need to be able to discuss, but I can't handle it at midnight, right? Yeah. And so there is some reaction that we have to do, but the policies and the things that are in place gives a credence to being able to handle that. But I remember that night that it was just like, wait a minute, folks, you don't call my personal phone number. And this particular person did not call my personal number. They did have my professional number. And I answered just to be polite. And I wasn't sure what they were calling about. But it was something that stuck out. That was just like, if you think you can just call and just do things, whatever, like, what about my time that I'm just relaxing on the sofa, with eating some popcorn and sipping some champagne, whatever I might be doing,
Ooh, turn it up. So, I mean, maybe that gentleman looked at you like the great Damon Wayans character, Handyman, where you just had to get, and that is not a socially acceptable bit anymore, but that dude was fire. But he looked at you as a superhero. And yeah, I think that sometimes we hold these individuals in political office, and we're seeing it right now, as the creators of experience, as the ones driving everything that we're seeing and feeling. And while they play some role, the one thing that I really want to call out to our listeners is, first of all, again, if you're counting nuggets, we've got a lot of gold ones. The first one that I called out specifically is stop telling people what not to do and focus on what to do. And then as a listener, stop listening to what not to do, identify what to do. I love it. The second one that I just heard you say, and this is a magnificent answer on you, and it's an epiphany moment that hit me like a ton of bricks. It's easy for me to say, these people are stealing my energy. It's far more difficult for me to say, I'm allowing these people to steal my energy. It's me, right? And so it was interesting because I find myself manifesting these situations because I'm looking for it, like I'm feeling it. And so what I feel on the inside, I see on the outside. And so I love what you said, the creating a firewall and owning your experience and your ability to navigate those situations, because it's me, like I can, and it's you as the listener, and it's Jermaine as the Fundamism Podcast guest. We have the ability to not point at other individuals or other circumstances or experiences as to why we're messing up or we're unhappy. The true crux of our experience, it starts from within, and what we're feeling and what we desire to feel could potentially shift when our mind shifts and understand that we're in far more control than we give ourselves credit for. So, Mr. Reed, I want to get to education and your experience in the political realm right quick. So you went to MU, you graduated from MU, you then went to UMKC, and you found yourself in politics at a very young age. Politics, is that something, or is that you always had those aspirations? This is something that came to you in college? Like, what got you into politics, and what made you continue to pursue that passion?
So growing up, I hosted a teen radio show called Generation Rap on Hot 103 Gems. Don't forget to slam the Z.
That's right.
Called, as I mentioned, Generation Rap. It was every Saturday morning, still airs at 8 a.m. I was part of the first group of teens who had an opportunity to host a show where we were able to talk about teen issues, very similar to a town hall discussion or a town meeting, but it was something that gave me a voice. I often tell Mike Carter, who's the owner of Carter Broadcast Group, that he allowed for me to have a voice at a very early age when I didn't necessarily know I had a voice, and I wasn't really establishing that voice. But to have an opportunity to be exposed as a sixth grader on a large hip hop R&B station, and then also their sister station on the gospel side, or even their sports station that they had back then, having that opportunity to be a voice as a teenager, and really growing into that, and not just talking with my friends on the social media or something along those lines, but really having people listen, and community leaders, our politicians, or entertainers, or whatever it may have been, came into the studio and had conversations with us weekly. And I did that for 4 years of high school. And so that exposed me to so much, and having an opportunity to meet my mentor, Alvin Brooks, who is now 88 years old. Met him when I was 9 years old. He was one of the individuals that really introduced me to a lot of all of this. And then also interning in his city council office when he served as a city council person, as the mayor pro tem of Kansas City, Missouri. And at 14 years old, been able to see myself eventually someday in that role, I literally had a picture, and it still hangs in my office to this day, of me at 14 years old, sitting behind Alvin Brooks's city council desk with the American flag draped behind me at 14. And it's a significant article. It was featured in the Kansas City Star, and it was like a profile, and I forget the actual name of that particular article, but nonetheless, it's something that who would have thought 10 years later, or 11 years later or so, that I'll be sitting in the same exact seat as a city council person. And so, you asked about, and I give that background because to the larger question you asked is, have you saw yourself in that role? Yes, I did. Did I think it would happen so soon? No, I did not. However, what I did do is I stayed the course. When I met a gentleman named David Ross, and he was the president of Bank of America. David Ross now is 80 years old, and he's a good friend, and I can't wait to talk to him about politics in the next couple of days because he's a diehard Republican, and I'm a diehard Democrat. So looking forward to having a good conversation with him. But when I met him at about 15, 16 years old, and he asked me where I was going to go to school, and for him to tell me that he would pay for me to go to school if I went to Mizzou. It was a life-changing experience. Wow. Because he did that. And so I knew for me that I had a lot on my shoulders, and there were a lot of people who believed in me, that I didn't want to let them down, and I wanted to do everything that I possibly could to move and stay on the right track so that I could accomplish these life goals that in the trajectory that I felt like I was on, and not making a mistake. And so all of those life experiences and so much more that could even unpack led me to the decision of potentially knowing that I wanted to serve in public office. People ask, well, what do you want to run for something else? You want to do that? No, I just really want to make a difference. Politics really requires for people that are sitting at the table who give a damn about what's happening and actually care about making a larger decision. Sorry for my bad language, but
give it to me. It's authenticity.
but people have to actually care, and I just wanted to be at the decision-making table. That's part of the reason why I ran for the community college board, which I serve as a board of trustee now, because I care about what's happening in my local community, and I understand the plight of so many who don't necessarily have the voice, or the voice that represents their needs, their interests, their concerns at these decision-making tables. And I always felt as if that I could be that voice for those like my mom, who's was a single mother raising 5 kids, and couldn't necessarily go to a community meeting all the time, but it didn't mean that she didn't care, but she cared enough that people were at the table who represented her needs, her concerns, and that could help change and improve the quality of life. And so I've stayed this course because of those reasons.
Well, I'm just looking here at my notes, and I got 4 pages of things that you said.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
You think
those are half pages, so that really makes just a front and half a back.
So, of all the amazing things that you've done, individuals that you've met, career goals, accomplishments, all that stuff, I mean, the one that really jumps out at me, and the one that I would hang my hat on if I were you, is that you shared the airwaves, and I'm just based on our age and the time frame in which you speak of, being in high school and Hot 103 jams. You shared airwaves with Dr. Dre, Tupac, Lil' Kim, Ice Cube, Biggie, and my man, Mr. Jermaine Reed, is over there spitting facts and making a difference. Nobody could ever take that from you.
Oh, gosh.
You see how I got
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Thank you.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So I want to talk.
We should have met in college, Paul. We would this would have been so much fun.
Begun. We got lots of time, my friend. We're going to create some memories together. All right. I want to be respectful of your time because we're coming up on an hour. You have kind of planted the seed several times, as have I, regarding politics and specifically today's politics. And my goodness, like, it's so refreshing to hear you say that you cannot wait to talk to your guy, David Ross, who is a diehard Republican, and you're a diehard Democrat, and I'm paraphrasing. And you can't wait to talk to him about the political landscape, whether it's the Democratic National Convention, which you said I was over and I didn't want to listen to the analysis and all that stuff. If you knew today, like if the landscape was the same back when you started in politics as it is right now with the divisiveness and the left versus the right and what appears to be just open hate, and a lack of empathy and acceptance of other people's opinion or perspective, would you still have gotten into politics?
Yeah, likely so. And I see many of the individuals who are young advocates today, those marching with Black Lives Matter and other groups that are advocating. Hell yeah, I'll be out there in a heartbeat. Trying to make a difference. I could tell you several times of having opportunities to interact with Jesse Jackson and marching with him in Washington, D.C. on the front line at a march when I graduated from college, or having an opportunity to go march with John Lewis and feeling like, man, I'm doing what these older gentlemen were doing with Dr. King.
Yeah.
Yes. I would definitely try to be doing something to make a difference, because the reality of it is that our voices really do matter. And what I learned from my time in politics is that there is what is called an inside-outside game. And outside is what we see as this advocacy in the individuals who are out marching, who are out advocating for a particular issue. Inside are those individuals who we elect, and that's why people always talk about voting matters, is because the people who we elect should have our voices, should have our interests, but we need all of those to mirror each other. And sure, there are differences of opinions, but the divisiveness that we see today is something that is a tad bit discouraging, but it also is what I consider also motivating, that we have to continue this fight because it's the right fight for so many different things. Those who are living and working minimum wage jobs, those who are healthcare and are essential workers working on the front lines, of whatever this pandemic and the crisis in which we're in. There are things that we need to be faced with, and we've got to have people who have that fight, who understand that you have to speak truth to power, who are able to listen to people. And I think that's the larger point that you were talking about with Mr. Ross, is that I don't care that we may disagree on issues, but at least we can listen to each other. And I walk away from every single conversation with my Republican friends and my independent friends with a renewed sense of there are some common goods between what all of us are actually saying than we actually think or know going into those conversations, because it takes us being able to listen to each other so that we can come up with common sense solutions and practical solutions that help us live in a world that we all want to live in.
Yes. So I want to ask one last topic of conversation, but I want to call out a third golden nugget. Now, there are many, many more than just 3 golden nuggets in this particular podcast. But if you're listening, I want to specifically call your attention to 3 of them. The first, of course, again, just to reiterate, focus more on what to do versus what not to do, listening for it and giving advice on it. The second one is take more pride in understanding and owning your personal responsibility in creating outcomes in life. Whether people are coming to you with drama or you have challenges in your own life, you're stronger and you're more in control than what you believe. So that's the second one. And the third one that you just said, and I'm so glad that you said this because I was going to ask you the question and then I was fearful that we wouldn't get enough time to it, but you tied it up nicely in a nice little bow. I was going to ask you, how do you have civil discussions right now with your Republican friends as a Democrat, and vice versa? As a Republican, how do you have civil discussions with a Democrat? And you said it masterfully. And the advice carries over not just into politics, but religion and school and science and everything. It's listen to understand and not respond, right? Like we are so opinionated and so willing to put ourselves on everybody else that we very rarely are listening with intent and deliberately to what people are saying to get an idea of their perspective. And so if you go into a conversation with limited judgment and you hear their perspective, you don't have to agree with it, but at least you could walk away like Mr. Reed with his buddy, whether it's David Ross or Alvin Brooks, feeling as though, you know what? I see where he's coming from. I see where she's coming from. It's cool that we could shake hands and move on. Last thing I want to talk to you about real quick. I know that you decided to run for mayor of Kansas City, and you ran against Quentin Lucas, a mutual friend and somebody that we respect. I use that term very loosely, like he wouldn't know my name. But nevertheless, tell me about your experience in that. I know that you walked away, unfortunately, without that W, but you learned a lot. What was that experience like for you?
So Mayor Lucas and I are friends. Known Quentin Lucas since college. We actually are the exact same age. He and I actually had dinner last Wednesday together. And interestingly enough, we had this very conversation about the winner and or the loser. And I said during dinner last Wednesday with him is that, you know what, Mayor, it wouldn't have mattered if I was third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh in a 12 challenger mayoral race in the primary, because only two people were going to win and only one person was actually going to win. And so it wouldn't matter if I won or lost. It wouldn't matter if I won, but if I lost, I lost, and it didn't matter where I sat on that ladder. I lost, you know. But that doesn't mean that the issues in which I ran on, the passion, the zeal, the desire that I had to serve, doesn't mean that those issues were lost in that race. But this particular time was not for me. And I am glad at this point that, especially having a whole year later now to even reflect on that particular time and space in which I was in, and then obviously given all of the things that have unfolded over this past year, from COVID-19 to the death of George Floyd and the marches and all that. I mean, one signs up to run for public office, to do public good, to go cut some ribbons, to kiss some babies, to shake some hands, to do all these things. And you don't get a chance to do all of that right now. Yeah. And so I'm fine, of course, with the result. And who knows? I have no intention right now to run for mayor or any other office outside of the one that I'm currently serving in from the Metropolitan Community College Board. But public servants should be just that, is that you're serving for public good, for public trust, to do something to make a larger impact in our community, our county, our state, our federal government, wherever you might be serving, because you care about the public good of those that are around us. And so that was one of the larger takeaways from just the dinner conversation the other night with Mayor Lucas is that we all still can have mutual respect and still be friends with each other. And at the end of the day, win or lose, we can still sit down together and have a drink or have dinner and still be friends because it doesn't make you better than me or that my ideas mattered more than yours, but somebody has to do it. And there are good people across the board that care about things that are happening, regardless. Sorry for...
Is that distracting you? No, it's good. Hey, believe it or not, life happens.
There is a real life wall on the other side of me. So, but regardless of where we land on issues here or there are people who actually do care about what's happening. And your friends before. I had an opportunity to serve with Mayor Lucas as my counterpart in the 3rd district in which I represented the district as the district council person, and he served as an at-large member in the same exact community. He lives around the corner from me, right? And so we were friends before running, and we're still friends out there.
Well, next time that happens, you two gentlemen get together, I just ask that you hit me on my personal /business cell phone. Hey, so we haven't even scratched the surface of this, and unfortunately we don't have time for me to ask you.
We'll do round 2 or something.
We should.
Because we have to see if your viewers actually like what the heck I'm talking about.
Listen.
They're probably like, don't invite him back.
Hey, don't get it twisted. This is funny that you think that I do this for our listeners. Like, I get an extreme amount of joy doing this for myself. So, hey, you guys know that's not true. I love y'all. We couldn't do anything without you. Hey, so 30-second synopsis. I know that you're working in government still as a consultant. What are your responsibilities? And if somebody wants to learn more about Jermaine Reed, Mr. Reed, as we call him in the streets, how do they find you?
Well, visit me at JermaineReed.com. That's just my name altogether, JermaineReed.com. And what I've been currently doing over the past years, I started my own business, which I named after my late grandfather. It's called KGR Consultants. And what we do is we help connect large, small, medium-sized businesses with local municipalities, our state, our federal governments, where they're providing business solutions that provide some efficiencies for local government or technology or infrastructure needs or wastewater, sewer, transportation, whatever the issue may be. We help them navigate that as their government affairs consultants. And so it's been going very well. You can visit me at JermaineReed.com and check me out there, or send me a direct email at Jermaine@JermaineReed.com. That is Jermaine@JermaineReed.com. It comes directly to me. But appreciate the opportunity to chat with you today. This has been a lot of fun, and I definitely am open for round 2, 3, 4, whatever, to keep the conversation and party going. There's always so much more to talk about. And there is an important election coming up in November, probably the most important election of our lifetime, and we didn't even really get a chance to talk about all of that. And regardless of where you are on the views and your views and opinions, it is important that you vote. I'll stop there because I can go into a whole nother.
No, listen, I think we should get back together. The unfortunate thing is it'll probably take us up through November to find a time that works on your schedule.
No. I would. What does that shirt say? Butt kicker.
This is
butt kicker. No, it won't. I'm not as important as you are.
Oh, get out of here! This is that Charlie Hustle special, but this is foreshadowing because I knew that you were going to lay the hammer down on me. My guy Jermaine Reed is on LinkedIn as well. JermaineReed.com. Lots of great nuggets. I'll wrap up with them. KGR, obviously the K stands for Kenneth, named after your grandfather. What's the G?
Gregory. It was his middle name, which is actually my oldest brother's name, Gregory. And then the R, of course, is Reed. Awesome. And interestingly enough, I had another cousin. One of my cousins told me I host Christmas dinner, and I remember telling everybody about it. And one of my cousins, he's actually in the Navy. He says to me, he says, "Hey, that's my business," because his name is KGR as well. There are 3 KGR in our family, but then my uncle has all of his kids, their first, middle, and last names start with the K, middle name with the G, and then an R. So I was like, oh, I didn't even think about that. But so it's almost like a big family business. And
well,
so
his mama called him Clay. I'm going to call him Clay.
Yeah.
So there it is. And so just as to come full circle, you said how much your grandfather meant to you roughly 1 hour and 3 minutes ago. You questioned my note-taking ability, and I got Kenneth down on my notes. So what's good? Listen, here are the takeaways. Listen to understand, not to respond. Stop trying to insert yourself and your opinion before understanding what others are saying. Second, never underestimate the power of you in controlling your environment and allowing negative or positive energy in. And third, ultimately, goodness gracious, stop focusing on what not to do and focus more on what to do. Jermaine Reed, I greatly appreciate you as a man. I appreciate your passion for life and helping others and making a difference, gravitating towards the things that you think are fun. Ultimately, you as the Fundamism Podcast listener, we greatly appreciate you as well. We couldn't do it without you. Go out, have some fun today, create some fun in the lives of others. Until we see you on the flip side, deuces.